Hi, and welcome to Pushbox Banter. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Craig, and today we've got all sorts of good stuff to talk to you about from the Miami race this past weekend. Races, that is. But we've got cool stuff. So we've got two races. It was a sprint race weekend. We've got celebrities to talk about, sort of. And then we've also got, all sorts of stuff about the races and some of the teams. So cool topics, tons of stuff to get to.
Where do you want to begin? There is, gosh.
You tell me, what was your favorite celebrity to see this weekend?
Well, seeing Zinedine was probably my favorite. But again, it's kind of a bit of a cop out there because he does own
That is a
part of
cop-out.
Alpine, you know.
Yes,
But it's still nice to see him around. We had Lisa from Blackpink, which was pretty cool. She was in the garage with the Red Bull guys.
Now, was she also? Who was she waving the checkered
She was,
flag?
yeah, she was waving the flag of the Netherlands. Correct.
The flag of the Netherlands. I thought. Oh, wait, okay. Who there was?
No, it is a checkered flag.
Oh yes. Sorry, audience.
So
Please stay with us. Okay.
she was waving the checkered flag. We have Steve Aoki was there. He's a DJ, and then we had very relevant ASAP Rocky.
Ah, yes.
You know?
Yes.
watching the cars
For those
go.
of you that don't know, he's
ASAP. He's a rapper.
yes.
Rihanna was there.
Yeah, they're together, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're actually welcoming a new kid soon, right? So yeah, that's really cool. You had a bunch of football players. You had Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes.
You had
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick
yes, we know.
Mahomes.
Yes.
You had Tom Brady was there.
Yeah, good old Tom.
Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see
Taylor wasn't
I
hanging
didn't
out
see her.
there.
Maybe she was.
Yeah.
Maybe she wasn't. Who knows?
Probably not.
She was
if you
probably
didn't- if they
writing a
didn't-
diss
yeah,
track
if you
or
didn't see her.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? We had Ed Sheeran. We saw him in the garage with the Red Bull guys and Camilo Cabello. Kendall Jenner was there.
yeah.
We had, of course, we got to have some Kardashian representation there. And then Elon Musk was there. We have a couple politicians from the past, and I think I mentioned Camila Cabello. They had her on the broadcast a few times, but yeah, everybody was there for the party. It was hot, and they were there, and they were partying. It was great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the venue there is pretty unique. Like it has a marina, quote marina, that's
Right.
on the inside of the track. It looks the boats aren't floating, are they?
No,
I
they're
didn't
not
get a
floating.
good look at it.
No, you didn't. You didn't. Yeah.
No,
so I
mean,
think
I
it's
just
some
saw
sort
the
of
water and the boats, but I
it's
didn't get
it's
too
some
close.
sort of like, I don't know. I'm sure it's like some sort of glass or resin or something.
Yeah.
That they're on, but they do have people just watching from the marina from inside the little boats, which is pretty cool. I bet you those tickets are super expensive, but
Probably so.
considering the racing there historically hasn't been the best. They do know how to put on a show, and this was good. You got the little marina, you've got celebrities there, bringing in a bunch of excitement. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was like a sellout crowd. 250,000 people were there for the race. I almost said for the show because it kind of is a show in some ways when you get that many celebrities there.
Yeah,
but yeah, really cool stuff.
yeah. No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
We started the weekend with some sprint racing.
Yes. I'm a fan of the sprint racing. Now, I can understand why some of the drivers and the teams may not be, but
Yeah.
I think it's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. There's a lot of unknowns. They go
Yeah.
into the weekends not really knowing what to expect.
Less setup time and prep time and having to guess, and the track, like it changed temperatures and so forth a little bit throughout the day. So that gave some more unknown variables for them to play with and guess with.
Exactly. Any good takeaways from the sprint?
First thing, like the sprint, it was pretty cool, but we're going to save it for another time.
Okay.
Because, it's fun, but it's short and it's, we're going to give you some quick takeaways here.
Sure.
Verstappen, he was on the pole to start and he finished in first. Surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
Okay. Next, Leclerc. He finishes second. Then Perez, third. One of the surprises is Ricardo. Pretty cool. He made it all the way up there with his V-carb, freshly, a fresh livery going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool. So there's some other action that kind of happened in the middle of the race or latter part of the race. Pretty cool stuff. We'll get into that another time because there's a lot to talk about with this specific race and with some of the teams that are going on today. So,
yeah, it was a little bit of a distraction, I think, but it was nice to see Ricciardo.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he kind of shut down some of the critics that he was having.
I'm
he was
glad
like,
they
"Hey, I'm
did.
still here.
Yeah.
Just give me time." Right? He's adjusting to the new chassis. He's doing all right. So
Yeah,
I think that
got
was
some points.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It's like his highest finish he's had in years.
Yeah, yeah, and he kept it. There's a moment where he was where he was getting challenged, but that circuit's really hard to kind of pass people. So he did his best to maintain his position. So that was pretty cool. I mean, what was it, P4, right? So
Yeah.
you can't do better than that in a half race. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sad that he later went on and had a really poor quality, but
Yeah, he did.
in all that, he did have a good race. So a takeaway there, a couple points.
Yeah.
Can't beat it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. But the race itself was awesome. It's pretty cool. I
Yes.
mean, it's a changing of the god,
Possibly, yes.
right?
Yeah,
I don't
possibly.
know. I going into the weekend, one of the things we had found out was some of the upgrades that we knew actually in China, we knew were coming, right?
Yeah.
We knew it was going to happen in Miami. And there was a lot of thoughts and people were whispering that, oh, maybe they have a second in them that they're bringing. Like, who knows? I know Andrea Stella was saying like, oh, kind of temper your expectations. It's going to be good, but not that good. And sure enough, I think they delivered. And it seems like every time they bring a upgrade, almost without fail, they do consistently better. They did it last year around this time, and they did it now. And I mean, there you go. Results. First race.
Yeah, which is, it's really pretty awesome. Like you hear every weekend, different teams are bringing upgrades and, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to do blah, 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 blah. You hear it over and over again. And these, like we knew that the upgrades were coming from McLaren and they were pretty, they were optimistic, but they were, humble about it. Norris, and he's been talking all year long about, hey, at some point we're going to be competitive. There's going to be a race this year that we're going to be competitive and compete with Red Bull. He has talked about it like it's going to be further down the line, not anything close up. These.
I think it caught him by surprise as well. I don't think he was expecting it.
No, I mean, like when you look at some of the numbers they were doing, they were running at high speeds throughout the weekend, throughout the practice, and throughout some of the qualities. That they just hadn't totally put it all together really. And then the race comes, and they start off. Norris and Piastri, they don't qualify the best. They're still behind Ferrari, they're still behind Red Bull, but they're there. And they've got these upgrades, so that right off the bat, right when the race starts,
you have Perez. First of all, Leclerc has a poor start, one of the poorest starts I've seen in a while, and Perez has a really great start, but then is caught up and confused with what's going on with Leclerc. So he dives to the right and dives into the inside, almost takes out and torpedoes both the Ferraris and Max Verstappen.
I don't know how. It was like by the grace of God that he did not hit anybody.
But it's almost
knows?
like they almost knew it because Sainz, you could tell he slowed down.
Yeah.
And Verstappen, I felt like sped up. I mean, he missed everybody. It was going to be a complete disaster for Red Bull, for Ferrari, and possibly even for one of the McLarens. But thankfully, it didn't happen. But what that did was it caused a bunch of confusion, and Piastri was able to kind of take advantage of that and go from
He was like
sixth up to like
fourth. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so like from that point on, like Piastri's running, he's putting pressure on the Ferraris.
Yes.
He ends up, kind of moving up a little bit more and he's able to hang with them.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt you're watching it and he's getting some fastest laps right off the bat. Now Verstappen's in front, but he's not doing his traditional like, see you later, guys, and running off from everybody. He's like staying around the same time frame, maybe increasing a little bit, but not a whole lot. And that keeps going on for like the next 20 laps, 30 laps.
Yeah.
Well, into the 20 lap range, somewhere around in there.
Right.
And you've got Piastri. He's behind him and he's in second place.
Piastri's in second place. You've got Leclerc. You've got Sainz. Sainz at one moment was like, "Hey, I've got pace. Leclerc was still dealing with just no grip. And then you had Perez kind of just falling behind the two Ferraris and kind of getting hunted really by Norris. And Norris was, just had the pace, but was totally stuck behind Perez. There's a moment where Perez was like, okay, I can't really do much with these tires. Doesn't have the grip, maybe didn't have the balance or whatever. Goes into the pit lane and unleashes Norris. Norris goes and goes and goes. Everybody else starts to pit. So now you have Norris in the lead. And around the 20-something lap, you have...
Yeah, Sargent Magnussen. But Magnussen. Before we get to that...
Yeah.
So before we get to that, around lap 20, 25, somewhere in that range, there's one chicane. It's one of the last turns, and they come around the curve, and it's kind of a blind curve and blind chicane. And and it's a big curb, too, that's over there. And so they're going uphill... And they have a cone, this plastic cone that's sticking up, 2 feet into the air, just like a foot off of this chicane. But it's literally like why they have it there is only so drivers can kind of tell that it's going to drop and that's not the direction to go. They could easily, in my opinion, they could do something different for that because at some point, for whatever reason, like Max Verstappen uncharacteristically rides over that chicane, over that curb, runs and tries to dodge the cone, but he hits it with the left front wing, and he's lucky that it didn't just get sucked into one of his side pods. Yeah. But it goes by. I don't know if he creates floor damage at that point. It's hard to tell. Yeah. But it was really uncharacteristic of him because he's always like on. Like every single lap, every single curve, he's on. Every turn, every time.
It was unusual that he hit the thing to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? So
if somebody was going to hit it, you wouldn't think it would be Max. Yeah. Like that would be my last guess. And yet he was the first one to hit it, and really the first one to really come close to hitting it. Seemed like. Yeah. But at that point, like right after that, he decides to pit. So he pits. He changes tires. Comes back out. He's on a hard set of tires at that point. And then, a few laps later, then we run into
Sargent
and Magnussen run into each other.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother topic we can touch on a little bit later, but it to me was more of a Sargent issue than it was a Magnussen issue, though the regulations would say it was a Magnussen issue, and obviously he got penalized and had some penalty points to his super license. That was actually one of the items or one of the penalties he got that was like, to me, the least deserved. I feel like all the other things he did that race and even in the sprint race were things that were totally like unacceptable. But that touch, that was not, you have to, regardless that he wasn't ahead at the apex, he was right next to him, and I feel like Sargent should have known that he was right there and should have given him that car width space to be able to at least challenge, though not give him the position, right? I don't know.
Definitely an arguable point. And he wasn't. I don't know. I don't feel the same way that you do, but it's definitely arguable. But end result is
end result.
Sargent wrecks again. Williams got to make their, each team probably has like a theme song or something, and theirs should be screeching wheels ending with a running into the wall this year, because that's what happened next. And so then you've got the yellow flag, and then out comes the safety car.
So a couple people benefit from the safety car, right?
Oh, yes.
Really, Norris, Perez, because Perez essentially got a second stop. Norris, having managed his tires all the way and his pace, was able to get basically a free pit stop.
Yeah.
Comes out. Also, strange thing with the safety car that it picked up Max Verstappen instead of Norris, which is so unusual.
Yeah,
what was up with that?
That was very, very strange.
Yeah, they were saying it was the second time in the history that's ever happened.
Yeah, it was 2016. They say that you see it a lot at lower levels, but not at F1.
Yeah,
but he was able to get another lap around and go take his pit stop and
exactly
get fresh tires. Now, and that's the crazy thing is his car was running so good at that time. He was putting the fastest lap on at lap from 24 up through this was lap 28 whenever the stint happened with Sargent. So
right.
So he was. I mean, his tires were still great. His
amazing.
car was still he's still running really well.
Whatever they did to that, well, we know what they did. The front, the bottom, the back.
Yeah,
but the way they were able to get that car kind of dialed in for that track, which was giving everybody problems.
Yeah,
the Ferraris. And clearly, it was giving the Red Bulls a run for their money.
Yeah.
But they did amazing. And at the restart, I mean, he was about this close to losing his track position to Max Verstappen. Max was ready to take that position back, and if he had, I think Max would have taken it.
Yeah.
But he held him off. And then I guess the rest is kind of history.
I don't know if you think Max would have taken. So the yellow car or the safety car goes off.
Yeah.
And they take off, right?
Uh-huh.
And Verstappen does make a run at him, and he's just not able to pass him right there. But you think if he passes him,
in that first,
Max can hold him off.
Well,
from that point on to the end of the race.
Yes, and I think Norris did himself a disfavor by kind of accelerating way too late to the point where they knew he had to instead of doing, because they have a certain amount of time before they can go full on, and everybody has to just wait on him, right? So he did it towards towards where he just needed to, and Max was right on him the whole time, and it was so close. And yes, to answer your question, had he overtaken him then, I think in clean air, the Red Bull, even though it was struggling from the very beginning, would have held him off. Not by much, but I think he would have held him off just like Perez was holding him off in the lower down the field when they were in 5th and 6th. I think it would have been the same, only because that track it's just incredibly difficult to pass, and that DRS is really non-existent. It's almost like it needs a third DRS zone or something like.
Well, I think it has 3, but it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah. Does it have 3? Okay, yeah.
But it doesn't, there's not a lot of overtaking that happens on there.
Correct.
So you may be right. And I think that the Red Bull, they probably had it geared up or fixed where Verstappen, he probably had a larger wing, so they were expecting him to run in front. But then for whatever reason, his car it wasn't as sharp as it normally was, and he wasn't able to catch back up with Norris. But that is an interesting. That would have been fun to see. It would have been because he would have been. I think he would have been fighting Norris, trying to pass him the rest of the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
because he
the
was
whole
with
time,
he was with Leclerc. Like the rest of the way, like he couldn't catch up with Norris, but Leclerc was like right behind him, but he held him off the whole time.
Verstappen held off Leclerc.
Verstappen did,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of close too.
Yeah.
But it was nice. You know, it's what was it? 100 plus races.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the triple digits with McLaren. Signed basically his future to McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew it was coming for a very long time. It was more of a when, not like if.
Right.
And it just came out of nowhere and in Miami, which was amazing. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's exactly what Miami needed, I think. Remember, like the racing there's been kind of not great, right? It's been kind of aside from the spectacle surrounding it, you know, it's still in a car park. It's still, you know,
it's a street race.
It's a street race. Like it's not.
But it's not.
It's just. It's got a level of like. Yeah, even the track layout itself, it's not really exciting, you know.
No.
So it needed that extra oomph, that like something to tie it emotionally, you know, with the fans, and not just for the sake of like a spectacle.
Yeah.
Or like a really cheap one. And I think it did. I think it did deliver in that sense, because it, as much as like I'm not the biggest Norris fan, it was nice to see that, you know, he was dedicating it to his grandma and all these other people and the team. And even though we knew eventually he would win, it's always a nice way. It's a nice thing to see and experience with the driver as you're watching. Like, okay, you know, this is your maiden win. Like, it's awesome. The drivers all came up and shook his hand, gave him a hug. It was really great. So, it was exactly, I think, what Miami needed and what, you know, McLaren needed. Because it's been a while. It's been since Danny Rick, a couple years back, that they've won, which has been a long time ago. So
seems like 200 years.
There's only so much marketing you can do, or that Zach could do with that team, to keep fans staying fans of them. You know, having good talent and doing his best to get those signings, the Piastri, the Lnado. You know, that could be a super team.
Yeah,
easy.
It could be
two of the youngest drivers, and they're fantastic. They're really good, but you need that car, and you need that car to deliver, and they've been doing it. So good on them. And who's to say? You know, maybe this is the beginning of the end of a dynasty. Who knows?
It could be.
I mean, you know, we haven't gotten, and we won't probably get too much into Adrian Newey again. We talked about him last week. You know, but is it all coincidence that kind of things are falling in certain directions already with, you know, 1 week of, or a couple days of an announcement?
Yeah. Whenever Adrian leaves a place, you know, things
usually,
have gone downhill. So
starts to tumble.
Hopefully that, you know, second place isn't the start of that, because he's still there. But yeah, and who knows where he's going to go? Another topic. Another time.
Another topic, another time. What about Piastri? What'd you think about him?
I thought Piastri was really good. Like throughout the first portion of the race, he was fighting for position. He was right up there. He led the race for a bit. I think he was in second place for a while. Whenever Verstappen went in and pitted, but Sainz was fighting with him, and it was basically like. The McLaren team and the Ferrari team were looking at it like this is their competition here. And so the way that they were placed, Ferrari was actually saying, okay, we're going to do the opposite. So if one of them pits, then we'll have one pit, and the other one will stay out.
Right.
So that's what they did. So, you know, the safety car, it seemed like it helped Norris out. You could say it probably may have hurt Piastri in some ways because
definitely.
He was up further.
Yeah.
But you know, he came back in, he raced really well, did have a little bit of a shunt, got the front nose damaged, had to get that changed.
Tell us about that. That was...
Yeah, so what, latter part, somewhere around lap 40-ish.
40, 41-ish.
Yeah. So he and Sainz were fighting back and forth. Sainz was complaining that Piastri like passed him, kind of ran him off, then passed him illegally, and so he's talking on the race radio, all bitter that he gets passed.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, that may be true, Sainz, but just pass the guy.
Just do it on track. Just do it on track.
Be quiet. Pass the guy because you're going to lose your opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think he ended up actually passing him.
He did.
But he had to fight. It seemed like his passion at that time kind of may have caused him a delay of a lap or so. But eventually he did pass him. But yeah, Piastri ended up, because of some of the car issues there, he ended up further back. But race pace was great. He had a lot of fastest laps up until Norris started taking command and having that going on. But he was doing great. In fact, at the end of the race, he had I think one of the last laps or two, he set the fastest lap for the race.
He set the fastest.
Took it away
lap
from Norris.
Yeah, at one point they tell him, "Don't be reckless."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
don't forget that Norris is leading the race.
Because
he was himself going on a little rampage after he got a new nose, was in the back of the field and started just picking him off little by little, which is really nice to see. He ended up from kind of at the very end to like 12th or 13th. So
yeah, it's nice to see, but he was a little bit too far back to actually get back into the points. So it was wise of him to tell him, "Hey, be careful there, back off a little bit."
I was impressed with him too. I mean, he had half the upgrades that Norris had.
Yeah.
So whatever they brought,
oh my gosh,
they brought to that car was working with just what they gave Piastri. So I mean,
and it's interesting too because they brought all these upgrades to a sprint weekend. So they're putting all these upgrades on the car. They don't really have a ton of time to check them out and see how they're going to run.
Yeah.
They know that the temperature, they know that the track is going to change throughout the weekend, but yet they still do it.
Yeah, that was really risky.
They take an educated gamble, and it pays off big time.
Brilliantly, for sure. 100%. I agree. So I know we already kind of touched on this, but your final decision here, or your final opinion really, if there's no safety car, does Norris win?
Oh man, it's rough to say. If it's just him racing Verstappen, I kind of think that Verstappen would get beat. I think that Norris could have beaten him, but then again, like as we were talking earlier, maybe not. But, Verstappen, I think, may have been able to hold him off.
You think so?
Possibly holding him off.
I think you're struggling. I feel like you want to say yes.
I am struggling, but then
you're
I keep thinking about Verstappen hitting the lawn, the chicane art, and in that portion of it, and just thinking, man, he just was a little off. So maybe this just wasn't his day to win, but man, it would have been a fun race to watch that way. Because gosh, I know without the safety car, Norris being back a few more cars, I don't know if he could have made all the overtakes. Because he still would have had to have a pit stop if there's no other safety cars or no safety cars throughout that whole race. And I don't know if Norris could have caught up and passed him, because he would have had like 3 or 4 guys to pass.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have happened.
I don't think he would have had the tires to pass him anymore.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that statement.
You don't?
Because
really?
Well, yeah, because at lap 24 through 27, 28, he's still setting the fastest lap.
But he was driving in clean air the whole time, except for when he was behind.
Okay,
except for when he was behind Perez, that he was struggling. He couldn't get past. Right. Perez goes into the pits, and then he just takes off, and everybody starts to go pit, and then eventually you get a VSC, and then the complete safety car, and so he's just in the clean air the whole time. So if he's got to then be behind the 2 Ferraris, possibly Perez, maybe not there. Regardless, he's still having to go through all those folks, even his teammates. So I don't know. I honestly don't think, to answer my own question, I don't think he would have beat him. And I think it would have been it was just too big of a hurdle to just overcome. It's just too many cars in front. The overtaking's hard, and I think he would have damaged his wheels or his tires. Sorry, before getting to Verstappen. And Verstappen in free air, yes, he's slower than usual, as was Perez, but he still would have been ahead by at least, like, I don't know, the difference, the same difference that he had, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds.
Yeah,
I think so.
maybe so. I don't know.
I mean, but we won't know ever, right?
We'll never know.
But we'll have
do think,
more races now
yeah.
with like cars. I think. I mean, pace wise, that McLaren's looking really good.
They are looking really good. I know with Verstappen on the race radio, they were talking about how they were telling him basically, or giving him the okay to, to really go after it and really push. And that was a few laps before he actually came into the pit. So he, in essence, like, he wasn't really pushing that whole time. He was kind of conserving his tires and seeing how they're going to do.
Yeah.
He could have stayed out a little bit longer, I think.
Yeah.
And if he would have, I think he would have won, because he would have, a few laps after that was the safety car.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in a lot of things, you've got to have some luck. Some things go your way.
Yeah.
And
good
man,
for him.
they definitely went Norris's way, and he did have the fastest car. So I mean, hey.
I mean, he
had a great day.
He was taking a lot of time in the later parts of the race from Verstappen.
Yeah.
So we knew that car was fast. It had the pace. Something was up with Red Bull. What do you think was going on with them? Like, just in general, was it just the sprint format that it seems to kind of catch them?
I think that this time, they got caught a little bit. I think that some of the guesses that and expectations on their strategy, it just didn't quite work out this time.
Yeah.
And then they had a few weird things happen in the race that were a little bit unexpected. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say other than, well,
No. Yeah, I mean, are they going to have more upgrades this next time? What are they going to do there? That'll be interesting to see.
It'll be very.
I'm sure that they will. They've got to have something, because now, like, they've known and they've talked about how all the teams are really, really close and they're closing in on them.
Yeah.
So they got to keep improving.
Yeah.
But I think that this was a big wake up call for them.
It's definitely a big wake up call, and it didn't help. The Perez thing didn't help. I think it was reported that he actually did scratch. This is how I understood, scratch the diffuser of Max Verstappen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about a scratch, not like a break or anything. So I don't know how much, how many tenths of a second that is per lap. Probably fractions of, thousandths of 1 second, maybe tops, because it's like, it's not as like smooth or whatever. You don't have the best airflow, but I don't think that did much of a difference. And then you have Horner basically saying, "Hey, we're not going to give any more technical data to Adrian Newey. So who knows? Anything that they bring is going to have zero, maybe except for whatever's already has been in the works. Anything moving forward is not going to have any Adrian Newey on it. So what does that mean for the car?
It's kind of interesting.
So they've kind of cut him off, except for strategy. It's like, okay, you're good for strategy, but like moving on, that's it. Like no more technical information. Like he's locked out.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of it's really. I think for me, I hate to admit that I am a fan of Red Bull, and it's a familiar thing to see Max win. Yeah, and it's almost like a for sure thing. You know, you can bet on it. He's gonna win. But now it's like, man, I don't know. These McLarens look really good. We've always
Ferrari's knocking on the door too.
Well, that's what I was gonna. I was going there. Yeah, Ferrari. We've talked about them being the real, the only real competition for Red Bull. But they looked okay. They looked pretty good. Yeah, they were there. But they've been leapfrogged, I think, by McLaren just with these upgrades. So who knows?
Yeah.
I hear that that Ferrari's gonna bring stuff or upgrades to Imola. So we'll see if that kind of pans out. But speaking of Ferraris, what did you think about them?
Well, I liked the blue unis and the blue stripe on the livery. I wasn't a big fan of the blue hubcaps, but that's probably not what you're asking me about right now.
No, you know what? I think
Maybe
that's
a
what
little bit more of
everybody
that.
wanted. Everybody wanted to see a baby blue car
Yeah, I think it would have been pretty awesome.
with a red stripe or something.
Yeah, get the red stripe. You've got the it would be really cool to have the Ferrari emblem on there with the baby blue behind it and the red stripe, like what you're talking about. Be solid.
Missed opportunity on them.
Yeah, I think so.
They're not as adventurous.
They did get their new sponsor, HP. So they're getting a little publicity here. But that's, maybe that's extra money where they can sign Adrian Newey now. We'll find out. Maybe that's a little bit of why Hamilton was so happy in the drivers' press conference earlier in the weekend.
All roads lead to Adrian Newey.
Yeah, pretty
Anyway,
much.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. Missed opportunity on the livery for sure. I mean, if the V-Carb team could do it, I mean, they made a whole spectacle of their car.
Yeah, didn't they do something like
they
ran
were
it
like
through a car wash or something?
they were like
and it
spray
came out
paint.
different?
Yeah, they were like spray painting it or like putting a bunch of like paints on it. Then with similar type colors, and then they ran it through a car wash thing, and then it showed the real car, and it was almost exact same. So, so that's pretty cool. Like, yeah, make it something like that. I mean, the uniforms were pretty cool for Ferrari, but the car was a misstep. I think they could have gone a little bit more. The hubcaps are terrible. Like,
it just
it wasn't needed.
No, I mean, the blue hubcaps would have gone if it was a blue car with a red stripe.
Yeah.
At that point, but it didn't look right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty cool.
The racing was okay.
Yeah, the racing was all right. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. Like Sainz is at the beginning of the race, and he's like, "Hey, I've got the pace," and then they're like, "Meh." It seemed like they were really cautious in areas where they could have been a little bit more aggressive, and like around in the, I want to say like around lap 20 or so, and they're talking about, hey, are we going to try to go after these guys or what? It just seemed like that they could have done more than what they did, but then again, maybe they just didn't have it. I guess they didn't have it.
Yeah,
that's why they didn't put much pressure on
I think they were cruising, and I don't know. I don't know. It almost seemed like they were just trying to make it to the next race.
Yeah, it kind of seemed that way.
Leclerc was driving well. Had his head on right, and then Sainz. I know we were talking about him earlier with his frustrations with Piastri and just his frustrations with the team. He sounded a little bit of a little bratty almost. Like,
yeah, he did.
Tell McLaren to give me the place back and this and that. And even McLaren came back on the radio saying to Piastri saying, "Hey, Ferrari wants you to know that they think that you should give the place back. But this is just a heads up."
Yeah.
Like, what was the point? But we're not going to do that. We don't agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And then it was literally just for the TV.
Yeah. Pretty
it was
much.
a message for the television.
Pretty much. It was great.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I never expected that from them, but that was cool.
It is pretty cool because you get some of these like ticky-tack type things, and a driver or team principal will get all bitter and bent over about something. And in reality, like, maybe the race director is going to do something, maybe they're not, but they're not going to tell you right then.
Right. Yeah. And we sure saw what happened. Sainz got frustrated, kind of lunged in, took off Piastri's, basically his whole front wing, kind of went up and kind of came back down again. But that was the end of Piastri's race. And then there's some updates overnight where Sainz is now P5 and Perez is P4 because he got a penalty for that.
Oh, really?
Yes. So there were some updates.
Yeah.
But regardless, it was a very mediocre type of race for them. It was just very
very
vanilla, I guess.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, with them, all the hype was around the color,
Yeah.
the color blue,
Yeah.
not the race.
Yeah. Not really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not everybody would agree with that sentiment.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, they still did very well.
Yeah, they did
right?
well.
I mean,
they did well. They did well.
They're not falling at the back
No,
of the pack.
no,
or having
they're where they need
issues.
to be. But
yeah,
we're all looking for that. That three-way race where it's like right neck and neck.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they were just not good enough to compete with the top two at the moment. So it was just like,
right. It's
hey,
Ferrari.
yeah.
You're expecting competition,
Yeah,
competing for
exactly.
wins, competing for the podium, and all, and pushing it all.
Yeah.
And in this race, yes, they did finish on the podium.
Yeah.
But it just didn't have that
Yeah.
aggressive type feel. And some of that goes back to the track. Some of it goes to their setup, and they knew they didn't have it totally, but they knew that they could race this one way and win, and so that's what they did. And that's you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
but
it could be that too. It could just be that their setup was good enough to get them to like close to P2, P3, and that's kind of what they're aiming for. I'm sure they weren't aiming for a win there.
That's true.
But then McLaren out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Are there other drivers that you thought are worth a mention here?
Hamilton, I thought was fun to watch. I moved up a few places. Sonoda did a great job. I think he ended up 7th, started 10th, and he actually was one that benefited from the safety car too.
That's right.
Let's see, Alonso actually he moved up a lot. Started pretty far back in the grid. Did move up. Ricardo, he started 20th. He did move up, which was great. But the other was Alpine. Actually scoring a point. So now
I think
they're not the worst team this year right now. There's two teams that have less points than them. Williams, Sauber.
I think we were getting some heat for this last week where we were mentioning they were having some incremental gains.
Yeah.
Though you couldn't really see that in terms of like points.
Yeah.
You could see it in their racecraft.
Exactly.
And that they're not at the bottom anymore, and they're trying really hard to just be a little bit better every weekend. And this again goes to show you. Actually, I thought we weren't even going to see Alpine at the end of the race because in the first couple laps you had Gasly and Ocon going neck and neck.
I know,
literally
that's
bumping.
right. They were wheel to
Wheel for like almost the whole race for that one whole lap. I was like, "There's no way these cars are both still on track."
Yeah,
and not, alongside a wall or upside down or reversed or something. But it was really good from Gasly, good driving. Ocon too, they're doing okay. So okay for them for now at this moment.
Yeah, exactly.
To be clear.
Yeah. They still have a long ways to go,
Yeah.
but they're incremental gains. Nice.
Incremental. Every race, just doing just a little bit okay, a little bit better than the race before.
Yeah, they did decent.
Yeah.
I mean, for them, decent in qualifying
Yeah.
for this year. But yeah.
Yeah. And then you have Magnussen. I think he's one to man, I don't know what's going on with him. I get it. I almost feel like he's almost put in this position where he's like, I don't want to, but I have to. Okay, that you have a pass, I guess, because you're trying, you're trying to sign a new contract. You're going to be out of a seat probably. You're not racing that great, but you're doing everything in that you possibly can to help your teammate. And then he goes and he talks to the media and he's like, well, I don't, you're right. Everything was deserved. All the penalties were deserved, but I kind of had to, and it's like, well, I guess. And it makes for good TV for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he's about one incident away from probably a ban for a race ban.
Yeah, I think he had eight points on his penalty card before the race.
I think it was 5, and he doubled it
Okay.
up. So now he's at 10 and 2
nice.
away.
So he's leading the
Yeah.
penalty card because I think there were 4 people that had 8. Yeah, Stroll, Perez.
Stroll, Perez. Yeah, Perez has.
There were
Yeah,
2
and
others.
I think I think Perez and Stroll probably both have a couple more races before that kind of goes away. But Magnussen was on another level. I mean, it was Magnussen from Singapore again.
Yeah, it's like every race he's
It's like
helping his teammate out, but he's also like causing mayhem at the back of the race.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, because if he gets too many points, then he misses a race.
Exactly.
They don't let him allow that. But he's definitely, he's having to drive for another ride.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if he's going to get that? Who knows if Haas is going to sign him for next year? Who knows if anybody will? Just because there's thought of two different individuals being in the grid that aren't here this year.
That's right.
Behrman and
Kimi.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think he'll stay though. I have a feeling he'll stay.
Probably so. Probably,
and he'll
so.
be probably with his race mate will be Ollie probably.
Yeah,
Ollie
that's
Behrman.
what I think.
And then we have Kimi probably going to Williams. Maybe sooner than later. Maybe in a couple of races. Who knows?
Possibly. So that's an interesting one there.
Yeah.
Because it's been reported that that Williams has requested an exemption because he's only 17.
Yeah.
But they've said that they'll only sign him and have him drive for them this year if they're going to get to keep him for this year and next year. So we may see him this year, or it may be next year, and he goes with Mercedes next year.
Yeah.
So more to come. But if that's the case, then Sargent's out.
Yeah. That might be a foregone conclusion.
I think so. I don't see him getting signed anywhere else next year. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think he's hard on himself too. He doesn't. I think he knows kind of what's in the near future for him. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully, things change. Yeah. And Danny. I mean, we already mentioned Danny Rick, but yeah, he's up and down.
Yeah.
Up on the sprint, down on the race. So. Yeah.
I think outside the team, like the F1 commentary was really good with Ruth. Yeah. I thought she brought a lot to the F1 team, being a former
F1
race
TV
strategist.
Team. Yeah.
That was really interesting hearing some of her aspects and some of her thoughts.
Oh yeah, it's on a different level of she's like her mind is still race strategy and like 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Of what the commentators are talking about. It's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, very very smart lady.
Yeah. So those were some of the takeaways there. What else did you think about?
I mean, overall, I was surprised, and again, the biggest takeaway for me was Lando. I hate to say it, but it was Lando, and it was Perez, and it was Magnussen. Lando, killer start. I'm sorry, not killer start. Well, yeah, killer first stint. Yeah. If it weren't for that first stint and taking those tires all the way to the safety car, and him and a few others are the only ones that did it, and he did it well, right? And getting his maiden win. God save the king. We heard it, second time in F1. So it was great and good for them, good for the team. Good for Lando, nothing but good things ahead. And, it's nice to see somebody that's not Max up there for a change. Yeah. Though,
I was kind of selfishly hoping, well, not selfishly hoping, but I was hoping to see like a perfect Max season.
Yeah, that would,
although it would get
that's
a little
too
old.
much. Yeah,
it would get a little old
that
after at some point if
that
it
would
hadn't already.
Definitely get old. I think a lot.
It's fun to have competition win.
Exactly. I think you wouldn't have many F1 fans anymore. And then Sergio was another takeaway. I'm a big Sergio fan, a Checo fan, and man, that was a miserable race for him. I think no pace. Bad on the tires, just defending the whole way. I could barely defend it against Hamilton. Hamilton was overdriving that car, and I don't know what Perez was doing in the Red Bull. But obviously, problems with the Red Bull in general. But, those are the times I think Checo has to go above and beyond. If you know that the car is not great and Verstappen is struggling in that same vehicle, that's your moment to deliver. And it's just like, it seems that when it's not great for Verstappen, it's really bad for Checo, and now I feel like just a missed opportunity in general for him.
Yeah.
And then Magnussen, dude, it's I don't know. I don't even know what to think. You know, it's reckless, but also exciting. I'm sure a lot of some Hamilton was saying bravo to him for doing what he needs to do, and others like the McLaren team principal was like, hey, we need to do something about it. We need to clamp down on this sort of thing because it messes up everybody else's drive, and then it messes up everybody behind him. It just creates this like, what do they call it? A Constantina effect, where you just have everybody just on a train and nobody can get past the slower car in front, just because everybody's in dirty air. So I'm sure with only a couple of races in and having already 10 points on his super license, I'm sure we won't see him for a race. So I'm excited to see what the season's got coming for him. And if he's going to be behaving, to not have that happen, I doubt it.
I think if he doesn't behave, so
we'll see Ali. Yeah, we'll probably see Ali. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens. For now, I guess we'll look forward to Imola.
Yes.
I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe some upgrades from Ferrari.
I'm sure.
It's you have a lot of Tifosi there.
There is a giveaway. I don't know if you saw this or not, but there is a giveaway to where you can enter to win, and it's like an Airbnb type thing at the Ferrari.
Oh, at the Ferrari Museum.
Yeah, at the Ferrari Museum. You stay there. You get to go to like all the favorite restaurants of the. And you get like to do all this other stuff.
You get to sleep by the cars.
Yes, you sleep by the cars, like all this like crazy stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, if you're into that type of stuff. I don't know,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way to promote Airbnb and
they're
Ferrari
not a sponsor. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So hopefully I don't get sued for that.
So exciting to go back to Imola. Then basically it's the European, all the European countries plus Canada in the mix. So that'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And,
it's always interesting to see all the different tracks, see some of the different history that'll go along with it. And then, you kind of shake that up for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it pops out and you go to Canada and then shake that up and they come back to Europe.
Yeah, exactly.
Go all over the place at that point.
And we'll see. We hope to see a lot of good things from McLaren and Ferrari at home. So we'll see.
Good times.
Is there anything else you wanted to touch?
I think that's probably it. Yes. That's all that I've got for today. So, Daniel, what about you? Anything else?
I'm good. I'm ready to get back to normal. Practice, quali.
Yes, yeah. So we won't have a sprint weekend for a little bit.
Yeah, I like the sprint races, but it's nice to go back to normal. See, because again, you get the cars, you get them tuned up right. You get to see the true performance of all the cars in an equal setting, as opposed to like one practice, set it up, figure it out. Now you race. They don't know what they're doing. At least not in not as they would normally, right?
Yeah. They don't get the same amount of data to look at and make their decisions.
Yeah,
they're kind of guessing off of a lot of the data,
right.
And going, okay, is this going to work or this not?
Right.
Yeah,
but. Well, all right, Craig. I think that's it for now.
All right.
For everybody else, on your platform, follow, subscribe, like, comment.
Yes, you know what to do on your platform, and if you don't, we're very sorry that you don't.
Just make friends with any.
Yes, let us know. We'll try to help you out.
Like buttons.
We'll try to help you out and point you in the right direction if you're having trouble with those things. So, because we're here to help.
Exactly. So. All right. Well, Craig.
Yes, Daniel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. It was a good time.
It was.
Yes. All right. We'll talk to you next time on Pushbox Banter.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.